Welcome to the Generational Wealth Podcast. Should you own or rent a home? That's the $1,000,000 question. Today, we're going to clear the air. By the end of this show, you're going to know the pros and cons of owning versus renting a home and when is the best time to do both. All I need you to do is smash that like button. It goes a really long way toward growing this channel. So thank you guys so much for tapping in with me. Make sure that you leave me a comment and let me know that you're here. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who has booked their free session, guys. If you haven't yet done this, you are missing out. Insuring your way to wealth. How the rich use insurance to build and protect their fortunes. I've been hosting a free 1-hour private call where I've been showing people little known strategies that the wealthy use to increase their wealth through insurance. I've been sitting down with folks all week and they've been leveling up their family, guys. This is a free call. So if you're ready to take control of your financial future, all you got to do is click the link in the comments below so that you can schedule your free session. I also want to give a big shout out to all of the sponsors of this channel. I want to give a big shout out to the official sponsor of last stream on this past Monday. That was the last time we had our show going, guys. We do the shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I want to give a big shout out to the official sponsor of the Monday show, Sister Serafina. Sister Serafina made a $10 super chat and she put in an extra cash app as well. So I definitely want to give a big shout out and thank you so much for the support, sis. Really appreciate it. Also, I want to give a big shout out to all of our regular sponsors, Brother Yasha Allah, Akaman, all of you that keep this channel going. Now, you may be asking, what is a sponsor? A sponsor is someone that makes a donation to this platform so that I can keep these shows going on a regular basis. As you guys know, I'm a full-time business owner, church leader, and I always got things going on. But many of you ask me to put as much content as I can into these shows to give you all the game. So if you enjoy all of the value that I deliver, please do me a favor and tap that dollar icon directly below. Your sponsorship helps to keep this show on air. You support what you want to see, guys. Your sponsorships tells YouTube that this is content that you love. So whoever makes the highest donation for this evening will be the official sponsor of tonight's podcast. But enough talking, let's get into the show. The pros and cons of renting a home. I want y'all to leave me a comment on this. Should you buy or rent a home? Let me know y'all's thoughts. Are you wanting to buy a home, or do you think that you would fare best if all you did was rent a place to stay? There's a lot of debate on this topic. I know people that always say you gotta buy a home. I know people that say, why would you buy a home? Always rent. This is such a heated topic. So we're finally going to clear the air. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of both. So let's talk about the pros of renting a home. Renting gives you flexibility. Renting allows you to move with ease, so that way you don't have to worry about selling your property. I know you guys saw that the market was red hot a year or two back, but right now it's a little bit harder to sell a home. So if you ever wanted to move, these are considerations that you have to make. You got to think, man, if I'm owning a home, it's going to be kind of hard to just up and leave at a moment's notice. If you're trying to relocate to another city or another state, if you're trying to sell the home, you're going to have to wait until the property is sold. And so you want to think about flexibility when you're deciding whether you want to rent. Another big upside of renting a property is lower costs. Now, I know a lot of y'all are like, what lower costs, Uzziah? You ain't seen what's going on in the market? Even if you have high rental costs, you're still not paying all of the costs that goes along with home ownership. Costs like the down payment on a home, that gets expensive. Closing costs, maintenance costs for renovation and repairs. When you are a homeowner, all of these things go into the price. It's so much more than just renting a place. And some of you guys don't even have renter's insurance where you stay. When you have a home for yourself, you got to deal with property taxes, you got to deal with homeowner's insurance. There's so many costs outside of the mortgage. So when you think about renting a home, you get the flexibility of being able to get in and out, and you have lower upfront costs. You don't have to put as much money in to have a nice place to stay. Now, another big upside of renting goes into avoiding any repairs. When you think about owning a home, you're always having to do fixes, whether there's an appliance that's broken, whether a pipe has busted. Right now, we got snow in the state of Texas. A lot of people are not ready for that. Every year, there's damage from the winter. But if you're renting a property, that doesn't fall on you. That's something that you pass on to the landlord. I remember last year when I was working on fixing my property in North Austin, all of the money that I was spending on repairs was the cost of somebody's rent. If it was the summer, I'm having to fix a broken AC unit. If it's the winter, I'm having to fix busted pipes. You got to think about how much money you'll be able to save, along with peace of mind, in knowing that if anything happens and something breaks, you don't have to worry about fixing it at all. All you got to do is call up your landlord and you're good to go. It saves you a lot of money also, because a lot of times when these breaks happen, you're having to come out of pocket at a moment's notice. This is money that you are not expecting to spend. This is the reason why I always stress the importance of an emergency fund for those that are trying to become real estate investors. Because if you own rental properties, then you're responsible for fixing all of the tenants' issues. This is what you want to think about when it comes to the pros of renting a home. You could still live in a home, guys. All you got to do is rent it. Am I saying that you should always rent? No. Sometimes it makes sense to buy. But am I saying that you should always buy? No. A lot of times it makes sense to rent. On this podcast, I'm going to give you the math to show you when it makes sense to buy versus when it makes sense to own. I'm going to give you the math to show you that you could actually make more money long term if you rented a house instead of buying one. I know some of y'all don't believe me. Just sit back and watch. Make sure that if you just joined, you smash that like button. Today, we're talking about the pros and cons of renting a home. Should you buy a home? Should you rent a home? That is the million-dollar question. Now, let's talk about the downsides of renting a home. One of the cons is a lack of stability. What do I mean when I say lack of stability? What am I talking about? I'm talking about if there is an economy where prices are going through the roof, that means that when your lease is up for the year, it might cost a lot more in rent prices. Guys, I had to go up on the cost of my rent for my tenants this past year. And I've always kept the prices low. I like to give discounts. But the thing is, you cannot survive inflation. If you are someone that is either a real estate investor or you're a tenant, both of you guys are going to be infected and you're going to be affected by higher prices. Inflation is an infection, y'all. You're going to get hit with it, you're going to get bit. And so when you think about inflation, it makes everything so expensive that you never know how much you're going to end up paying from one month to the next. When I was looking at the cost of rent in Austin, nearby where I have my rental property at one point last year, I saw that the average duplex in that neighborhood was $1,800 a month. And I charge way less than that to my tenants, man. My tenants was getting one over. But just imagine had I decided to go from the deep discount that I usually give to then charging at market rates. I'm not even talking about charging them more than the average price. I'm saying, had I gone from my typical price to what the market required because of inflation, that would have been very difficult to afford. When you rent a home, you don't control how much you can afford to pay. You got a little bit more flexibility when you own a home if you've gone through a fixed rate mortgage. I want you guys to think about the lack of stability when you rent a home over time. Another thing that you can't control is if the landlord sells the property. I'm going to confess, guys, that was an option that I was considering years ago. Should I sell this property? And had I sold the property, thank God I didn't, that would have affected both of my tenants that were in it. Because Lord knows, whoever was going to buy that property off of me, they wasn't going to give the same prices that I've been giving to my tenants. And so this is why you don't have a lot of stability whenever you're living in a property that somebody else controls. If they go up in the prices, you got to pay it. And so that's one of the major cons. It doesn't always make sense to buy, but this is one of the cons when you rent real estate. Another major con is that you don't get any equity. Some of you guys know building equity is one of the keys to the average person's wealth in America. I'm saying it like that for a reason. You might be saying, Uzziah, why are you getting so wordy? Why are you not just saying that equity is one of the keys to building wealth? Well, you got to consider a lot of the wealthiest people in the world don't build a fortune through being a homeowner. The wealthiest people in the world build wealth through business. They own business, and if they're getting equity, it's because of the equity that they have in their business venture. The average person will have maybe $100,000 or more in net worth assets because they've bought a home. And so you got to think about how you want to play this game. The average person will hang their hat off of their home's equity, but having home equity is not the make or break. It's not the end all or be all of wealth creation. The average millionaire has 7 different streams of income. If you want equity from a house, you obviously can't get that if you're renting. So renting does not give you the opportunity to have any sense of ownership in a property. Now, guys, what am I talking about when I'm talking about equity? Equity is whenever you own a property and it's the difference between how much the property is worth minus the mortgage that you owe. So let's say that you have a property right now that's worth $400,000. You only owe $200,000 on the mortgage. That means that you have $200,000 in equity. And sometimes people will use this equity during the sale of a home. They'll take the difference in their profit. Sometimes people will take out a home equity line of credit. They'll be able to use their equity to do different things, like investing in other real estate properties. No equity means that you won't have ownership over the place that you stay. But sometimes people will make the statement that if you're paying rent at a place, you're losing all of your money because you don't own the property, so you're not building equity. Guys, I want to break that myth. That's not always true. Just because you've got a home, it doesn't mean that you're actually making a wise financial decision. If you studied the 2008 housing crisis, you would see that a lot of people's property was underwater. You would see that people were buying up these homes for all of these, great prices. But then when the market went under, they actually owed more on the mortgage than the property was worth. Just because you own a home, it doesn't mean that building wealth is guaranteed. And this is the reason why I said that for the average American, they look to building equity in a home as their key to wealth. When you look at the list of the Fortune 500, the wealthiest people in the world, you tend to notice they're business owners. They have equity coming through other ventures. Let me check these comments real quick. Let me see where y'all are at. Shout out to videos, to views. Much love. Catching another live. Greetings all. Definitely shout out to you. For those of y'all that are just getting on, tonight we're talking about the pros and cons of renting a home. A lot of y'all are wondering, should I buy or should I rent? Today, I'm giving the answer. We just went over the pros and cons of renting. The pros, renting gives you more flexibility because some of y'all like to live that nomad life. Some of y'all like to be over here and over there and this city and that city. It's much harder for you to move from city to city if you own a property. Renting gives you a lot of mobility. You get lower upfront cost if you are renting a property. The reason why you have lower upfront costs, even if a mortgage price and rent looks the same, is because you're not accounting for every other cost that goes along with home ownership. Things like property taxes, things like paying for renovations and repairs. You don't have to worry about that when you're renting a place to stay. The third pro of renting is that there's no maintenance responsibility. If a pipe busts, you don't have to worry about spending up to $1,000 to get it fixed. Instead, you just call up your landlord and they take care of it. It's no problem. But now when you think about the cons of renting, two things that you want to think about is the lack of stability in the price of rent. If it's a market where the prices are always going up, then that means that by the time that your lease is up, you would have to pay a lot more money to renew your lease. But another downside of renting is it does not give you access to equity. Equity is one of the keys of how the average person builds wealth in America. Okay. So I just want y'all to take note of that. Sometimes people say if you're paying rent at a home, you're wasting your money. That's a myth. Some of the richest people that I know rent their home because rent. They don't buy the home that they live at. Some of the wealthiest people that I know rent where they stay because if they're going to buy any real estate, they want to rent those properties out to others. I want you to consider this. When you buy real estate, the goal is to be able to make money from it. When you live in a home, your home is not an asset, it's a liability. Robert Kiyosaki talked a lot about this in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, y'all. Y'all got to check that out. When you own a home, no one is paying you to be there. But if you buy real estate property that you're renting out to others, you're getting a passive income check every month. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. It's making you money. A liability is anything that's taking money out of your pocket. So when you own a home, there's money that's coming out of your pocket into the mortgage, into the repairs, into the property taxes, all of the other costs. Just because you're renting, it doesn't mean that you're wasting money. Anybody that tells you that that's true across the board is lying to you. And you want to stay away from that myth. This is something that's making a lot of people broke. Everybody is still in this myth. The American dream is owning a home. Some of the wealthiest people that I know rent where they stay. And the reason why they rent instead of buy it is because they know that they will make more money if they rent out the places that they've purchased. They'll keep their costs low if they're renting because they know they don't have to deal with all of the repairs and renovations that goes along with it. Guys, repairs and renovations alone are very expensive. Let's talk about the pros of owning a property. Big shout out to my brother, Roy. Shout out to Lyratex and the Israelite. Thank you so much, King, for the $10 sponsorship. Thank you for starting this thing off with support and love. For those of you that are getting a lot of value from this channel, please make sure that you tap the dollar icon directly below so that you could donate. For those of you that like using Cash App, you could donate through $Gen Wealth Podcast. The information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. All right, Dun says, Shalom, brother. Wow, it's been a while since the last time you were on talking about the recession and inflation. And guess what, Dun? From the last time that I was on and I was warning y'all about the recession and inflation, what happened? Can you tell them that? Was everything that I said a lie? Or did you slowly watch it come to pass? Remember, I had been telling y'all about inflation before it went all the way up. I was telling y'all about how the market was going to take a hit. So there's going to be times where I'm going to be on this channel and I'm going to be giving y'all the game in advance. I'm going to try to give you enough time to make the right adjustments before the market actually takes a hit. Y'all got to make sure that y'all are applying everything that you learn. That's what the Generational Wealth Podcast is all about. Shout out to my brother, Akaman. Ak says, buying can be good, but it also can become a liability. Absolutely. Owning a home can be a money pit, especially depending upon the type of property that you buy. Like, imagine that y'all try to buy a home, right? You're so obsessed with being a homeowner that you buy a home and then there's so many repairs, you spend all of your money trying to fix the place. This is the reason why they have a term such as house poor. So many people just want to buy a home because they think that this is going to fix their life, that they end up paying more than what they can afford. Guys, right now, the average home in America is like $400,000. Not everybody can afford that. And even if you could afford it, it doesn't mean that that's the best financial decision for you to make. That's what we're going over in this podcast. What are the pros of owning a property? Well, we already been talking about equity. We might as well stay on topic. The first pro of owning a home is building equity. As you pay off your mortgage, your equity can increase. This can be a very valuable asset, especially for the average American who does not own many assets outside of that. Guys, let's keep it a buck right now. Everybody ain't going to be rich. Everybody's not going to own 10 different streams of income. Not everybody's going to be the next Bill Gates. Not everybody's going to be, the Wolf of Wall Street. You got to be real. If you know that you're not going to be invested in multiple assets, maybe just having an average portfolio with equity in your home, that would be an excellent start. I want you guys to be clear about what type of life you want to live. And this is something that's really important. In this generation, everybody talks about how they want to ball out. Everybody talks about how they want to be above average. But guys, most people are average. That's why they call it average. I'm not saying that as a knock. I'm saying that even if every person elevated themselves above average, that means there would be a new average. The average person will only build wealth through their home because most people won't take the time to learn how to invest in the stock market. Most people will never get into owning their own business. So if you're reluctant to get into any of these other wealth creation assets, at a minimum, you may want to consider buying a home. And so this is one of the things that you guys want to think about. If for those of my guys that are out there that want to invest in crypto and you want to build a business, it might be the best option for you to rent for a while, especially as an entrepreneur. When you're an entrepreneur, you're having to do a lot of traveling. You're doing a lot of networking. You could constantly end up relocating in pursuit of opportunities. If you own a home, you might find yourself stuck in an environment and it's harder to move around. You got to be very clear on what your goals are in life. If you're not trying to go for much, you don't care about having a business, you don't care about investing in the stock market or crypto, and you just want to be able to have a family and, have a nice place to stay for a while, then you want to consider being a homeowner. And the reason why you want to consider it in that case is because home ownership works best if you're going to be there for a long time. Guys, I watch so many people buy homes and then they want to move like 1 or 2 years down the line. You're losing money like that. All financial experts will tell you that you don't even begin to break even on your home's investment until at least 5 years in. So if you're not thinking about staying at the home that you want for the next 5 years, you should already get that off the table. I'm telling you, a lot of y'all gonna get caught up in the hype of buy a home, sipping the Kool-Aid. You're gonna buy the home, you're not gonna consider the cost, and then you're gonna want out within the next year or two, and that's going to come as a loss. You're actually going to set yourself back if you do that. Unless you're sitting on a lot of money, if you do that, that's going to put you in a worse position than where you are right now. And the goal of the Generational Wealth podcast is to elevate. Guys, I could just not even do a show if I just want to say, hey, the key to wealth is just this. The key to wealth is just that. Everything is black and white. The truth is, life is not that black and white. It makes sense for some people to buy a home depending upon their finances and their lifestyle, but it makes sense for other people to rent. So if you're in the audience of thinking about owning, you want to own because of the equity, but you're only going to build equity if you're in the property long enough to make a gain. You got to stay around for a long return on your investment. Guys, investing is a long game. This is not no get rich quick scheme, do something overnight. This is not a flip. This is you getting a property that you want to stay at for an extended period of time in the hopes that in the next 10 to 15 years, that's when you're actually going to start to see a return on your investment. You want to take time to build your equity. The next thing that you want to keep in mind is the stability. Remember how I was telling you guys about the instability that you get from being a renter when you don't know if the price is going to go up? When you buy a home, you should try to lock in a fixed rate mortgage. That way, you don't have to worry about the prices being so unpredictable. When you lock in that fixed rate mortgage, you already know what you're going to pay in the mortgage from year to year. And even though property taxes might get a little bit higher, you can rest assured knowing this is how much the home is going to cost. You can set your budget correctly, and then you can plan all the way down the road. Okay. Let me look at some of these other comments. All About Cree says, glad to see these great topics back. Blessings to you, brother. Blessings to you, Cree. So happy to have you on. Cree also says, yep, that's why I'm not ready to buy. Being an entrepreneur and not certain where I truly want to settle down yet. So I'd rather rent for now. Wise words. Everybody is so caught up in needing to be a homeowner to feel like they're, having some big accomplishment that they're actually going to ruin their future success. If you're still trying to figure out what is the best environment for you, you want to stay as flexible as possible. And again, buying or renting a home depends on you. It's not about nobody else. So don't say, oh, well, I'm going to buy a home because Uzziah bought a home. I'm a homebody. You might be the type of person where one minute you want to be in California, another minute you want to be in Florida. If that's you, you may not want to tie yourself down to one place. You've got to know who you are. Akaman says, yep, it don't make it better. Thank y'all for the comments. Let's keep these comments going, y'all. I'm liking this energy. He said, yep, it don't make it better. I know some folks deeply in debt right now that went and bought a home and went deeper in debt. That makes no sense. Guys, do y'all understand that home ownership is the most expensive thing that you're going to do in your life? This isn't something that you should rush into. So if you buy a home right now, again, the average cost of a home in America right now is $400,000. So that means that unless you're about to write somebody a check for $400,000, most of y'all will probably end up taking out a $300,000 mortgage. If I'm keeping it a buck, a lot of y'all gonna be trying to look for a no money down mortgage. Some of y'all gonna be trying to take out $400,000 mortgages. That means you're going to have $400,000 in debt. Now, unless you got enough money to be able to pay that off with ease, then you may want to think twice about adding a $500,000 liability to your portfolio. Remember, the goal of creating generational wealth is to increase your assets and decrease your liabilities. You want to focus on you being paid more while owing other companies less. That's the key to building wealth. but you can never build wealth if you always owe more than you own. A lot of us have a big spending problem. Some of y'all, you already got over $100,000 in student loan debt. Now you want to add on $400,000 in mortgage. Now you had $500,000. But where are your assets? Credit card fees are the highest that it's ever been in history. So you got to add that in as well. At what point do assets come in? But how can you build assets if, well, damn, I got to pay off my credit card. Dang, I got Sally Mae. There goes the mortgage. At what point do you pay you? That's why you got to think about what makes sense in your own best interest. Every financial expert will tell you the best way to go broke is following the Joneses. A lot of people buy homes because they're following somebody else, but they don't have the same situation as you. One of the pros to owning a home is building equity. Another pro to owning a home is having stable housing costs. The third pro to owning a home is having the freedom to make changes. So obviously, if you're renting out a place, you can't dictate every adjustment that you're going to make. You might not be able to knock down a wall. You might not be able to paint in certain colors, but you could do that if you own a home. As a homeowner, you're going to have the freedom to make the changes and improvements of your choice. And you get to do it without asking for permission. So if that's something that you really value, then that's something that you want to consider. I remember whenever I bought my real estate investment property in Austin, I converted the garage into a studio. Now, I couldn't have done that if I didn't own that property. And so you always want to think about the place that I'm about to rent. Is this already set up in a way that's convenient for me? Or am I going to need to go into a place where I'm going to need to tear it down? I'm going to need to convert it into something that's custom made. If that's the case, then you probably want to own something. Because if you try to go into somebody else's property and start turning things upside down, they might come after you. Okay. Let's talk about the cons of owning. Yes, audience, there are cons to owning a home. I know your mama and daddy didn't told you that the dream is owning a home. That's when your life will be perfect. But I'm here to let you know that's a bunch of crap. The cons of owning a home is higher upfront costs, maintenance responsibility, and lack of flexibility, just like we discussed earlier. So now we got to flip it now from renting, and we got to talk about what this looks like now that you own a home. When you own a home, everything is more expensive. Why? Because buying a home means that you've got to make a substantial down payment. I know there's all this talk about no money down. Come on, let's keep it a buck. A lot of banks are requiring that you put something down in 2023. As life gets more expensive, the more it's going to cost to even get a home, period. And you can't just think about down payment. You got to think about closing costs and other expenses. Another thing that we've yet to touch on, opportunity cost. The opportunity cost of how much money you would make if you took all this money that you're dumping into a home and put it into an investment. So guys, let's talk about that for a moment. What do you think the numbers would look like if the same money that you put towards a down payment on real estate actually went towards an investment in the stock market? I got the numbers. Historically, the stock market as measured by the S&P 500 index, remember, if y'all have been rocking with me on this channel for some time, I always tell you about the importance of having index funds. Historically, the stock market as measured by the S&P 500 index has returned an average of almost 10% per year in long-term investments. This is saying that if you took that same money that you wanted to put towards a down payment on a home that might not go nowhere, studies show that on average, the stock market as measured by the S&P 500 index shows a 10% return over a 20-year time frame. Which investment makes more? Well, real estate. And I want y'all to know this. I'm a real estate investor. I own over $1 million in real estate, but I can't lie about the facts. I love real estate because it offers passive income, cash flow. All of that is wonderful. But when you talk about the return over on investment over the long run, you've got to be honest about which markets outperform. Real estate investments have returned an average of 6 to 8% per year over the long term, according to many studies. And this is the reason why most people don't realize that more millionaires have been made through the stock market than almost any other avenue. I want y'all to think about this, guys. Warren Buffett, what does he do? Invest. Ray Dalio, how's he making his money? Through investing. These are business owners, but their claim to fame is investing in the stock market. The reason why these guys are billionaires is because they're putting their money towards things that they know gives them high return on investment. Guys, I want you all to consider something when you talk about generational wealth. Not all money is the same. If you take $10 and you put it into a checking account, that could be totally different than you taking $10 and you putting it towards an investment. The ROI is going to look totally different. And so it's not enough for you guys to just think about making the money. If you're trying to create generational wealth, you have to look at the landscape and say, okay, which is going to work best for me? Is it going to be stocks? Is it going to be real estate? Where am I going to make my mark? And that's the reason why, if you guys have watched some of my podcasts from last year, I told you about how you really want to be able to diversify your portfolio over time. You want to have some investments in real estate. You want to have some investments in stock. You want to be able to spread your assets around so that way, if any one market goes down, you're still able to capitalize somewhere else. The stock market has returned 10% over the long term, 20 years or more, through the S&P 500 index. That beats out your average real estate investment. See, where y'all get caught up is you look at all of these ballooning prices. What are you talking about, Uzziah? In Phoenix, Arizona, there was a home that 5 years ago it was for $100,000. Now it's $1 million. How can the stock market beat that? You're not looking at all the costs that went into buying that $100,000 property. I just told y'all, when you buy a home, you got to think about the down payment costs, the closing costs, property taxes, any kind of repairs that go on along the way. You look at the price tag and you think that it's just $100,000. But speak to anybody that knows anything about money. You're going to be paying a lot more. This is how y'all get got. The mortgage industry makes a killing off of you because they market home ownership as the American dream. They've programmed you into believing that your life will be perfect as long as you own a home. And the only reason they program y'all like that is because that's the highest form of debt that you can take out. That's what makes banks rich. Think about it. How much do they sell you on credit cards? They offer credit cards to kids in college who don't even got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Selling them credit cards, can't even afford to pay for it. It's because they're making money from it. Then there goes the car. You know you got to have the fly whip. But how much is the average car? I'm sure y'all probably bought cars for $10,000, $20,000. The average home is $400,000. So if you were running a bank, you tell me which kind of loan you would make the most money from. Oh, I know what kind of loan I would make the most money from. I would make the most money if I convince the masses of the people that everyone should have something with a $400,000 price tag that they had to spend the rest of their life paying down on. Think about it, my people. Okay, when we go on these generational wealth podcasts, y'all, and I'm getting fired up here, I need y'all to deprogram yourself from financial slavery. Financial slavery is go to school, make good grades, get a good job, buy a home. Oh, you can't forget that nice car that you need to take to your new job to impress the people that you don't like. All of these steps require debt. It's an entire system that society has to keep you dependent and broke. Wealthy people understand the game. That's why they don't play by these rules. Why didn't Bill Gates finish college? Why wasn't Warren Buffett's claim to fame working at a job for 40 years and putting money into a 401k? Why you don't hear that about these guys that got all these billions of dollars? You hear it about the middle class because that's how they keep us stuck. If you're going to build wealth, you cannot do what the average person is doing. And the average person signs their life away buying a home and they don't even understand if they can afford it. Is this saying you should never buy a home? Absolutely not. What this is saying is buying a home should be a conscious decision. If you're going to sign your life away on a mortgage, you better make sure that it's worth it. And one of the most important factors that you want to consider is the opportunity cost. I'm telling you guys this right now. The next major play that I'm making, Lord willing, is going to be in the stock market. I've already got enough money right now sitting in real estate, guys. I've got over $1 million in real estate alone. The next major play I'm going after in 2023 is going to be in the stock market. And the reason why is because the Federal Reserve has already positioned the stock market to go to the moon. I need y'all to watch what's happening. For those of y'all that don't know nothing what I'm talking about, I want you to go back and watch a podcast that I did about the great wealth transfer. I went over in that podcast about how trillions of dollars are exchanging hands right now from the baby boomers to newer generations. And in that podcast, I broke down how a lot of the great wealth transfer is going to take place through the stock market. You guys got to know about what's going on. The reason why stock market is going to be my play in 2023 is because I know the market has already gone down in 2022. The market may not be at the bottom just yet, but there's going to be a prime time to be able to buy major shares of large companies at a discount. I own shares of Tesla. I own shares of DocuSign. You know, the company that, for all of these companies, whenever you do business and you've got to be able to make an online signature, I own shares of that. And the reason why is because business is the key to wealth. So if you can own shares of some of the top companies in the world, especially while the market is down, when the market goes up, guys, you're going to have access to shares that you might not even afford. You might not even be able to afford the price of where some of these shares are going when the market recovers. Don't say I didn't warn y'all. But y'all are so busy trying to go into debt, buying a house, you might not have even looked at the stock market. All I'm saying is consider it. The next thing that you want to think about is maintenance responsibility. As a homeowner, you're going to be responsible for all of the maintenance and repair costs. Again, I'm going to remind you, home ownership is the largest expense that you will ever make. This is the case for 99% of Americans. So you want to be very cautious about what kind of home that you're going to buy. Even if you buy a brand new home, trust me, it's going to come with repairs. I remember when my wife and I moved into this new home that we have now, there were so many things that the builder didn't even think to do. We're having to put money here, we're having to put money there, having to hit her up. Hey, I thought you were supposed to do this. This is what you promised whenever we was doing the inspection. All of this goes along with owning a home. But they never tell you that on the front end. Why? Because they don't want to scare you away. It's not just about the cost of the mortgage. There's so many other expenses that come along with it. Guys, there's been multiple times last year where my home was hit by just biblical sized hailstorms. I'm talking about hail almost coming down to Egypt hailstorms. The amount of money that it takes to get these things covered. And I'm talking about, yeah, you could have homeowners insurance, but that's another expense. Let's look at some of these comments real quick, y'all. For those of y'all that are just joining, tonight we're talking about the pros and cons of renting a home. Should you own or should you rent? That's what we're talking about. Cree says, I look at home owning just as credit in a way because we wasn't taught the pros and cons of it. People just make it seem like stop renting and home buying is better in all aspects. Absolutely. That's a myth. There's a right time to buy a home and there's a wrong time to buy a home. Just like anything else. And I'm so happy that you said this about credit because the same thing applies here. A lot of times you'll have people that'll say you should never use credit. And then you will have people that say, well, you should always use credit because you want to raise your credit score. When you go to these two extremes, that's how a lot of people make bad decisions. So typically, most people are bad with credit. Most people use credit to buy liabilities. If you are buying one of these off of a credit card, slap yourself and get rid of your credit card. You don't need a credit card for that. But you have wealthy people that may use credit or other people's money to invest in high-performing assets that come with a return. I was speaking with some of my new clients about how wealthy people use insurance to have business startup capital as well as invest in real estate. Y'all didn't even know you could do that with insurance. That's the reason why I've been telling y'all to schedule your free session. If you've not yet booked your free session, make sure that you check that out. I offer a free 1-hour consultation on how the rich use insurance to build and protect their fortunes. The reason why the rich get richer, guys, is because there are investments that you don't even know exist in the world today, and they're using them every day to build wealth, using them every day to put their grandchildren in comfort. If you want to check that out, make sure that you click the link in the comments below. But like Cree said, that she looks at homeowning just as she does with credit, because we were never taught the pros and cons of it. People just make it seem like it's one way or the other, and that's a myth. Okay. Cree also says, yep, not one lie told. You have to analyze before you make a business/lifestyle move. Okay, I like how you talking, Akaman. Dollar cost average. My brother knows something. When you get into stock market investing, this is a term that's often used about when to invest in the market. Brother Ox said, I'm hitting it hard as well before buying the home in the fall. I want you to see what Akaman said right here. He said he's planning to hit the stock market before he even buys a home. So before spending all of his money looking into home ownership, he's first considering the stock market. Okay. These are things that you guys got to consider. When you talk about the cost of owning a home, you've got to think about opportunity costs. Opportunity cost means if I put 100,000 here, could I have made more if I would have put my 100,000 somewhere else? What's going to be the difference in my return? I just showed you guys the numbers that historically, if you play the long game in the stock market, you would actually make more money through that than you would through the average home. I know some of y'all don't want to hear that. I know I'm going to get hate mail. No, real estate, buy. I own over $1 million in real estate, and I'm telling y'all what it is. Just keeping it honest with y'all, all right? So now, when we talk about what are the pros and cons of owning and renting, let's go back to the cons of owning a home. We talked about the upfront costs, very high. We talked about what it would look like to do maintenance on a property. Is going to be very expensive. And that's the reason why, if you're going to make such a big financial commitment, you got to think about how much money you can bring to the table. If you can't bring no money to the table and you just want to own a home, you should think twice before you buy one, because even if they don't hit you with the down payment, you're definitely going to get hit if you ever have to make any repairs on a property. And it happens all the time, whether a property is old or new. But the thing that I want to touch on once again is the lack of flexibility that you have. Owning a home makes it difficult to move. If you guys are always on the go, you're going to get slowed down because you're going to have to sell the property first. And I want to remind y'all, the market isn't always good. You might think, oh, well, you know what? People in 2021, they didn't have no problem selling their home. Yes, that's because the market was red hot. The market ain't red hot this year. I've watched really nice properties have to stay on the market for 6 months, and the people that were selling had to take a drastic pay cut before it sold. So don't always think you're going to win on a sale. Don't always think it's going to be a quick sale. Your home could sit on the market for a while, and that could actually affect some of your plans when trying to move. Now, guys, I got a bonus for y'all. We talked about the pros and the cons. I want to let you know when you should do both. When does it make sense to rent a home instead of own? Y'all ready for this? It makes sense to rent a home when you're not financially ready to take on the responsibilities of home ownership. If you don't have money for a down payment and paying property taxes, you should probably rent. If you don't have money to cover maintenance costs and repairs, you should probably rent. There's nothing wrong with renting, y'all. You could probably rent a better looking place than a place that you could buy. because it costs less to rent overall. So if you're thinking, oh man, well, but I'm tired of being in these apartments. I want to be in a home. You can rent a home, bro. You don't have to buy a home. Whatever home that you rent, it'll probably be a better looking home than the one that you would put a mortgage behind. Because when you think about all of the money that you have to put into a home that you buy, you could actually take those costs and actually live in a higher quality place for rent. It's a trade-off. And one of the things that I want y'all to think about is the 30% rule. The 30% rule says that you should aim to spend no more than 30% of your income on housing expenses. If your housing cost is taking up 80% of your income, you're going to lose that home. I'm just keeping it a buck with y'all. I don't mean to be negative. For those of y'all that are trying to cut off a limb just to be able to buy a house, that's the quickest way to go bankrupt. Why? Because then you're going to deal with foreclosure. You're going to stress yourself the hell out trying to keep up with a mortgage. At least if you end up renting a place that you can't afford, you're only tied to it for a year or less. But if you can't afford your home early on, you're stuck with that mortgage for the next 30 years. Guys, this will ruin your credit. Do you know how much foreclosures have increased in America over the past year? This is how a lot of people are going bankrupt. I don't want that to happen to y'all. I'm just trying to warn you. I'm just telling you. I already know there's people out there. No, 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 no. I got a home. I got to get a home. My mommy said I should get a home. My daddy said I should get a home. I don't feel like I'm going to be perfect until I have a home. And then you're going to spend beyond your means. I would much rather you keep that same energy trying to bet on yourself and start a business than actually doing that when it comes to a home that's not making you no real money. Like, guys, if you put that same kind of obsession into building a business and you invest your money into that, don't you realize that that can change your life? I'm saying the way that you think that a home, a building can change your life. When you become an entrepreneur, that is a life-changing event. This is where you control your own schedule. This is where the amount of money that you can make is unlimited. If you're trying to live the American dream, that's not coming through a house. That's coming by you having the financial independence to do what you want. That's the true American dream. Why is that the true American dream? Because in America, you're actually given the opportunity to make as much money as you want. You can't do that in India. You can't do that in every country, y'all. I don't know if y'all know this. Have y'all ever been to a third world country? They don't even have the access that you have to do enterprise. If you are living in the United States, the way that people build wealth here is by owning ventures that give them access to unlimited income potential. Look at the richest people in the world. Are they obsessed with owning homes or do they own businesses? This is why you got to get your priorities in order, man. Again, I'm just going to repeat this one more time. If you want to be the average person where you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself in life and you don't need a lot of money, cool. You could either rent a low-cost space or you can buy a home. But if you're trying to create significant, life-changing, generational wealth to affect your family tree for years to come, I'm not telling you not to buy a home. I'm telling you to consider where that fits on the list of long-term decisions on the path to creating generational wealth. You may want to start a business before buying a home. You may want to get out of debt before buying a home. You actually got to take the time to just think through this to see, when does it make sense for you guys. I'm not trying to rain on none of y'all's parade. I'm just saying, if you actually took the time to focus on what should come first, second, or third strategically, then maybe by the time that you get to buying a home, it will be one of the best feelings of your life because you knew that it was happening at the right time. Nothing is worse than seeing a person that's worked themselves into the ground to buy a home thinking that that was going to fix all of their life's problems, when that only made their life so much worse. I'm telling you guys, this happens all the time. Look it up. Google how many Americans suffer from buyer's remorse over buying a home every single year. This stresses them the hell out. If you want to keep your portfolio solid, try to spend no more than 30% of your take-home income on housing expenses. I'm just keeping it a buck, guys. Whether that be for mortgage or rent, whether you're paying property taxes, whether you're paying other housing costs, try not to go above 30% of your income. The second thing that you want to think about, it makes sense to rent instead of own if you're always moving, okay? We talked about that already. The third thing that you want to think about of when it makes sense to rent instead of own is if you prefer to have less financial risk. Guys, I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret. If you sit down with a financial advisor, do you know one of the first questions that they're going to ask you? What kind of risk are you looking to take? They call it risk classes. So they want to know, are you really willing to risk it all? Or are you trying to play it safe? If you want to go through your life with less financial risk, it would be better for you to rent. The reason why that is because rent protects you from fluctuations in the real estate market. I don't know if y'all know the stories about how many people off themselves back during that housing crash in 2008. Y'all need to look this up. I don't know if y'all know how many people took themselves out because they spent all this money buying up these properties, and then they lost all the money during the housing crash. When they lost all of that money, they did not know what to do with themselves. Real estate investing, just like everything else, comes with risk. That's why I want y'all to stop going into things blindly. Oh, I could just buy any home I want, and that's going to mean I made a good decision. Nope. All investments come with risk. When property values go down in the market, that's when homeowners face a decline in equity. These are things they never tell you. Or remember how I told you earlier that when the markets go down, that creates a situation where you owe more on the property than what it's worth? This means that your house is underwater. A lot of people went underwater during the housing crash. And that means this is a difficult time to sell your property. Just think about that. Think about if you own a home and you get to a point where you want to sell. Don't let it be during a time where the housing market has gone down or a crash. That's when you're going to be stuck with it. Imagine, dang, you know what? It's a recession. I lost my job. I can't keep up with the mortgage payments anymore. I got to sell this. Guess what? You ain't the only one that done lost your job. There's other people that's hard up for money too. So it becomes that much harder for somebody to buy your property. And guess what? If they cannot buy your property, your finances takes the hit. Your credit takes the hit. This is why so many Americans had to deal with foreclosure, home loan modifications. People had to do short sales on their property. Guys, everything that I'm telling y'all is facts. Look it up. I know that the commercials never tell you all this because they just want to say, here's the key to your brand new house. Go and open it up. But they don't tell you about the number of people who lost it all trying to keep up a false image. Do not put the cart before the horse. If your money ain't right, you need to make sure that you really think through, should I own? In a lot of cases, it's better to rent if this applies to you. Last thing that I want to point out on this before we move on to the next part. You want to think about the fact that if you're a renter of a property, your name isn't tied to the property's value. That means that your credit is not going to be affected by it as long as you're making on-time payments. That means that your portfolio is not going to be affected by the changes in the real estate market. For a lot of people, because their finances is so heavily tied to a house, if the housing market goes up, their wealth goes up. If the housing market goes down, their wealth goes down. That would seem like it's common sense. Am I right? Wealthy people, they don't put all of their money into the housing market. Wealthy people can have their money still going up even if the housing market goes down. I'm going to give you all a prime example. Do you really think that the founder of Amazon would have his financial portfolio go down during the recession when the housing market is losing its property value? Do you think that Elon Musk is going to lose real money during a housing crisis? These guys are going to make more money during a recession because they have their assets tied up in other things. But because the average American builds their wealth through home equity, the housing market can make or break your portfolio. And that's why I always tell you guys about the importance of having your money in other places. This is the reason why I'm always stressing the importance of insurance. You need insurance because you need to be protected from a crash. So when you're renting, the rental payments will stay the same during a lease. And you have options, guys. You have options to be able to move around to other properties if your circumstances change. But now, if there's a housing crash, there's going to be a lot of mess. There's going to be a lot of damage that you're going to have to clean up. It's more risk on any investment that you make. So you just want to keep that in mind when it comes to owning a home. Let me check out these comments. Brother Ak says, man, don't even mention about overpaying for the home. Absolutely. I mean, when you think about everything that's happened over the past year, people was buying homes $100,000 more than the asking price. It was crazy. And again, go back and look at the statistics of the number of people that did that and regretted it. See, when the market is hot, it's easy to chase fads. Ooh, everybody's buying a home. I want to buy one too. And it's marketed down your throat so heavy, they get you caught up in your emotions. You get so emotional, you get so emotional about the thought of owning a home that you don't think about the logic behind the purchase. This is how the housing market gets one over, guys. Again, I'm going to remind you, banks make the most money off of mortgages. This is why they package home ownership as the American dream. But when does it make sense to own a home instead of renting? That's what I want to talk about also. It makes sense to own instead of renting when you smash the like button. Had to throw that out there. I'm sorry, y'all. I had to do it. I know it. Smash the like button, please. If y'all haven't gotten these likes up yet, please make sure that you smash the like button. We gotta get these likes up, y'all. There should be no reason why we don't have more likes. If you guys have gotten a lot of value from this podcast, please make sure that you tap the dollar icon directly below. I've seen one sponsorship come from Lyra Texan the Israelite. Let's get a couple more sponsorship on the board, y'all. All right. I'm giving y'all a lot of content, and I would really appreciate if y'all supported this channel. It makes sense to own a home instead of rent if you have a stable income. The reason I say stable income is because whenever you buy a home, the first thing that the banks are going to do is they're going to check your tax returns for the past 2 years. They want to see if you've had stable revenue. Are you working at a job that you've maintained? Are you in a business that's generating money year after year? Is that business generating a profit? These are things that you need to have if you're going to buy a home. You got to have a stable income with a track record of good growth and a good credit score. Here, when I'm talking about a good credit score, guys, it's anywhere between 670 to 739. Credit scores have ranges. You don't have to have an 800 credit score to buy a home. Anytime you have a credit score that's 760 or up, that's when lenders are going to give you the best offers. They're still going to offer you a home if you have a good credit score between 670 to 739. And so you just want to make sure that your credit is in the right place. Now, if you guys have watched some of my earlier shows on investing in real estate, you already know the importance of having your credit situated years before you make a purchase. If you're thinking about investing in real estate or buying a home in the next year or two, you need to be perfecting your credit score now. Do not wait until it's time to buy a home to fix your credit. And you know the reason why I say this? Because anytime you go through an underwriting process, they're going to bring up things about your credit that you didn't even know was there. You're going to be finding out, God forbid, I ain't trying to speak this on your life, but I'm just giving an example. This has happened to me. When I bought my first real estate investment property in North Austin, the underwriter said, hey, what's this person's name? You've got this debt associated with this other person. I didn't know nothing about it. It was a family member who had their credit tied to my name. Y'all know we tend to do that in our community. Watch that. You need to make sure that you're getting a copy of your free credit report right now before you go and buy a property. Make sure anything that's unexpected, any errors, you're wiping that off your plate. So that way, by the time that you actually buy a home, everything is picture perfect. You got to have a stable income and good credit so that way you can afford the cost of home ownership. It makes sense to own a home if you're looking to build equity in a property and you're looking to benefit from appreciation. One of the reasons why I love real estate is because of appreciation of the property. Many of you know my story. Back when I was 25 years old, I bought a duplex in North Austin for $230,000. At the time, the realtor was telling me that I was paying too much for the property, but I saw something in the location. Fast forward 5 years later, the property is over $500,000 in value. It's more than doubled in the price. And even though, yes, I had to pay a lot of money for renovations, repairs, property taxes, I still have appreciated the appreciation of that property. I've still benefited from the cash flow as well as just owning a home in Austin. I mean, there's certain cities where you own real estate where if you can afford something there, it's going to be a pretty promising investment. If you own real estate in New York before it became New York, that was a good investment. If you owned real estate in LA before it became LA, that was a pretty good investment. And so you want to think about the opportunity that you have. If you're looking to build equity and you want to cash in on the appreciation of a property, which can definitely grow your net worth through your assets, then it makes sense to own. And if you're just one of those people that, hey, for me, it's not even so much about the money. I just want to be able to go into a place and do whatever I want to do, whenever I want, change things however I like. If you're somebody that's looking to make all these different home improvements and upgrades, and you don't want to have to ask anybody for permission, then it obviously makes sense to own in that case. Okay. So, again, you've got a lot of people that are out there that'll tell you, hey, you should always buy a home. That's a myth. You got people that are out there that says you should never buy a home. Buying a home is stupid. Well, that can be a little extreme too. Sometimes it makes sense to buy, sometimes it makes sense to rent. You've got to look at your own personal situation before making a decision, because ultimately the decision to rent or own should be based on your finances, your lifestyle, and your long-term goals. All right. So please make sure, guys, that you smash the like button on this if you've enjoyed this podcast. Definitely appreciating all the love. And I want to give a big shout out to all of y'all that are sponsoring this channel. Let me give a special shout out to two of my brothers, Akaman for the $20 sponsorship, and my brother Kanan all the way out in Canada, man. I'm getting that Canada weather right now, my brother. I'm feeling a little bit of the cold. I don't know what it's like out there for y'all, man. I got to get out there and visit y'all. $20 Canuck buck right there. Thank you so much for the support, King. All right. For those of y'all that are on, we are talking about the pros and cons of renting versus buying. It really all depends on your situation. Now, I want you to go back and watch this video, because I want you to really write down the times that it's good to buy a property versus the times where you should rent a property. I want you to write down the pros of owning and the pros of renting. They both have pros and cons. Before you make a decision on whether you're going to buy or rent, it's a good idea for you to consider your budget, your financial stability, and your future plans. I got a lot of folks right now that are talking about moving to Austin, folks that are in my church. And so it'll be easier to move to Austin right now if you're renting a place. It's going to be harder to move to Austin if you own a home somewhere else. You got to think about where you want your life to be in the long term, and you've got to make adjustments for that along the way. Okay. So once again, guys, I'm going to put out a link for y'all to be able to join the panel. Y'all know I'm always looking for input and good conversation. Man, if y'all missed that Monday show, y'all got to go back and watch that. We had a 4-way chat. It was me, Brother Ak, Brother Yasha Allah, as well as Rick Judah. We were having an excellent conversation about marriage, how to have talks with your spouse about money in your marriage. If you all are married or thinking about getting married, that video right there is a must watch. Let me go back to these super chats one more time. My brother Akaman, thank you again, once again, for the $20 sponsorship. It really means a lot, my brother. Thank you for that. Much love to you and your house. He say, giving good information, family, teach the people. I'm trying, my brother. I'm trying. Thank you for keeping this going. My brother Kanan said, all praises for the knowledge. Purchasing a home is one of our goals. You've touched on several points that we have not considered. That's my goal. My goal is not to talk you out of buying a home because I'm a homeowner. My goal is to make sure that you've considered all the factors before the purchase. The last thing that I would ever want for this brother Kanan is for him to spend all this money buying a home, and there was something that I could have warned him about up front before he signed on the dotted line. So I definitely wish you much success as always, my brother, and thank you for that super chat. I want to look at some of these other comments as well. Okay, videos to view says no keeping up with the Joneses. Absolutely. If y'all are going to make any kind of home purchase, make sure that it makes sense for you. Videos to views also says house rich, cash poor. This is why I talked about the 30% rule. If you go over the 30% rule, there's a good chance that all of your money will be going towards a home. It's either going to go towards the cost of the mortgage. It can go towards the cost of the insurance. It's going to go to something that has to deal with just keeping this building up. And I'm telling you right now, one of the worst ways to create a prison for yourself is to dump 100% of your money into a house, because you're going to want to get out of that house at some point. And when I'm saying get out of the house, imagine being so house poor, you don't have any money to go out ever to a restaurant. Imagine having so much of your money locked into a house, you can never take your family on a vacation. I'm telling you guys, as much as I love where I live right now, the reason I really love it is because I have the option to be here and I can travel. So you just want to think about this, guys, before you make the wrong move, okay? And so make sure that y'all check out this video once more. I just cannot stress that enough. We got some folks in here that are homeowners like myself, and we've got others who are renters like Cree. And guess what? Many years when I didn't own a home, everybody was telling me, you need to buy a home. Why don't you have a house right now? You're a loser. Oh my God, don't you see this crack in the wall in your apartment? What's wrong with you? And then they saw the real estate investment that I made in North Austin. You know what they said after I did that? Man, I wish I could have did that. Man, I wish I'd have thought to do that. Well, you can't do it all. You can't be out here rushing to buy a house, then try to get in on another real estate investment property. Sometimes you got to do one or the other, guys. That was what my mind was. See, if I'm going to take money and I'm going to put it into a mortgage, I wanted my first mortgage to be paid for by my tenants. When I bought my property in North Austin, I rented out one side of the property and lived in the other. That made sure that I had a place to stay for free. And so again, this is not to say that you can never buy a home. You might be able to buy a home this year. It all depends. But you want to take the time before you do anything to see, what should I do? first, second, third, or fourth. You want to make sure that you're operating in the right sequence before you make any decision. That's what it's all about, y'all. All right. So, as always, y'all, please make sure that you share this podcast if you got a lot of value from it. And as always, I definitely want to give a big shout out to all of the sponsors. Thank you so much for everybody that supported. Thank you for all the love. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that truly get a lot of value from my content, I definitely encourage you guys to check out my premier program, Your Breakthrough Year. Your Breakthrough Year is my elite 12-month coaching program that's designed to help you reach your goals, make more money, and maximize your productivity. This is one of my premier programs that has helped a lot of people get out of debt. I've had clients who started their own business from this program. I just spoke with a client this past week that's had a dramatic weight loss transformation. It's all in Your Breakthrough Year, guys. Okay. And the reason why my clients are accomplishing all these different things is because all of this goes into having a personal breakthrough. If you watch the video that I did on how to dominate 2023, you'll note that I talked about having several types of goals. See, most people only have a goal for their finances or a goal for their career. But if you don't have physical goals, spiritual goals, it's going to be that much harder for you to accomplish your career goals. They're all intertwined. You want to make sure that you map out all of your goals over the next 12 months. And the Breakthrough Year shows you how you can reach those goals 10 times faster. In Breakthrough Year, we talk about how to maximize your energy. Because if you're going to be a high performance person, you got to have a lot of energy. Ariel can tell y'all, for me to do what I do day by day, I've got to operate like a machine. 1 minute I'm focusing on the real estate investments. 1 minute I'm focusing on insurance, helping clients. Another minute I'm taking care of things for the church. It is a non-stop hustle. So if you guys are really going to get in this game, you got to have a lot of energy. So this is something that I want you guys to really focus on intentionally, okay? I want you to think about, how do the most successful people in the world manage their time, money, and energy? They use their 24 hours differently. So if 2023 is when you're looking to have a breakthrough year, then this is the course for you, okay? I'm going to put the link in the comments. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. I want to make sure, guys, that you do everything that you can to press yourself forward over the next 12 months. We don't know where the economy is going, and we talked about different kinds of investments, but the best investment that you can ever make is in yourself. All right. I love y'all. I thank y'all for supporting this podcast. I want to give a big shout out once again to all of our sponsors. Shout out to my brother Kanan for the $20 in Canada dollars. Thank you so much, King. Really appreciate that. Shout out to my brother Ak Aman for the $20 sponsorship. And I want to give a special shout out to my brother Lyra Texan, the Israelite. All three dear brothers to me, man. I definitely praise the Most High for y'all's spirit. Definitely want to continue to celebrate y'all. Thank you for all that you do. I think I got to give this one. I got to give the crown to my brother Akaman. All praises to the Most High. Thank you so much. You're gonna set the lead for the official sponsorship. Brother Kanan is right there with you. You know, we won't devalue it. You know, it's the 20 Canadian dollars. We're gonna put it right there at the same scale as the US dollar. All right. We definitely appreciate the sentiment. So thank you, brothers, so much. I definitely appreciate all the love. If you have not yet done so, please make sure that you subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you can receive an alert whenever I have another show. I try to do these shows Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'll try to be back on here this Friday around 4 o'clock, maybe 4:30 Central Time. Okay. Mark your calendars. Make sure that you tell a friend. And until next time, keep pushing.